Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're really going to dig deep into the very architecture of human cognition. We're embarking on a sort of documentary-style journey to look closely at a universal experience that, honestly, is rarely truly understood. We're talking about the exhausting, complex, and surprisingly beautiful mechanics of a busy mind. So we'll be exploring the science of overthinking and trying to uncover exactly why our minds just simply won't stop.
You know the feeling, right? Picture that deeply familiar, highly vulnerable moment. It's the middle of the night. Your body is physically heavy, completely drained from a long day, and all you want, all you're craving, is just a bit of rest. You close your eyes, hoping for some quiet. But instead of sleep, you find yourself trapped with a brain that has suddenly decided to run a marathon, totally flushed with residual cortisol from the day's stress. It's this profound nervous system dissonance, basically a tired body held hostage by an uncontrollably active mind.
In clinical psychology, this looping thought process is often called rumination, and it frequently begins with the past, triggered by an area of the brain known as the default mode network. Now, this network becomes highly active when we aren't focused on an immediate external task. So you're laying there, and suddenly it pulls up a social interaction from last Tuesday. You start replaying the dialogue. You dissect your own tone of voice. You start reading deeply into a tiny pause or maybe a fleeting facial expression, just completely overanalyzing a totally normal conversation until it feels incredibly awkward.
But wait, it gets worse. Then the mental timeline shifts even further back. Suddenly, you're intensely focused on a mistake you made 5 years ago. An error in judgment, a clumsy moment, maybe a wrong decision. And this happens because of how emotional memory consolidation works. See, the brain intentionally stores the heavy emotional weight of a past mistake to prevent you from repeating it. So, in the dead of night, this long past event suddenly feels desperately urgent, as if it's happening all over again right now, flooding your body with the exact same physiological regret. And then, of course, the mind pivots to the unknown. A decision you haven't made yet, a worry about a totally hypothetical situation. In cognitive science, this is known as anticipatory anxiety. You think about the scenario once, then again, and then dozens of times more, trying to predict every possible angle. It really makes us stop and ask a fundamental question. Why do our minds do this? Is there a flaw in our neurological wiring? Like, is something fundamentally wrong with us?
Well, to answer that, we have to look at the evolutionary side of things. It's a battle between survival and comfort.
Reassuringly, from a scientific perspective, overthinking is not a disease, and it's not a malfunction. It's actually rooted in humanity's most incredible cognitive achievement, something scientists call mental time travel. Unlike most animals, human beings have the neurological hardware, specifically within our highly developed prefrontal cortex, to mentally detach from the present moment. We can consciously replay the past to learn from it, and we can simulate endless versions of the future to predict outcomes. For our early ancestors, this wasn't an anxiety disorder. It was a pure survival mechanism. Imagining what might happen allowed them to anticipate threats and literally stay alive. Imagine an early human noticing fresh predator tracks near their camp. Their brain immediately kicks into high gear, asking, "Will the animal come back? What happens if we stay?" Mental time travel kept them safe. But today, we exist in what scientists call an evolutionary mismatch. We are navigating a highly complex modern society using a very ancient brain. We don't have predator tracks. Instead, we have an upcoming job interview or a really difficult conversation scheduled for tomorrow. But neurobiologically, we're using the exact same ancient machinery to process these modern, abstract pressures.
And here's the crucial point. The brain's threat detection systems are incredibly powerful, but they aren't always great at telling the difference between a physical danger right in front of you and an imagined danger constructed entirely in your head. When you vividly worry about making a mistake next week, neuroscientists have found that the amygdala, which is your brain's ancient alarm system, lights up just as intensely as if you were facing a real, immediate physical threat. It literally hijacks the rational brain, treating a hypothetical social embarrassment as a literal matter of life and death.
There's a profound statistical irony to our anxious minds too. Research shows that a vast, overwhelming majority of the scenarios our minds urgently spin up never actually happen. So why does the brain keep generating all these false alarms? Well, it's driven by a deep psychological phenomenon known as the negativity bias. Evolutionarily speaking, preparing for 100 dangers that never arrive is a much safer biological bet than ignoring the one danger that actually does. It all comes down to this biological reality. That racing, overthinking mind of yours is essentially acting as an overly zealous biological bodyguard. Its primary function is to keep you alive, to constantly scan the horizon for risks, and to try and solve problems before they materialize. It is so vital to remember that evolution did not prioritize your mental peace, your happiness, or your ability to get a good night's sleep. It prioritized pure, unadulterated survival.
Which naturally brings us to our modern psychological landscape and our desperate search for certainty. Beyond ancient survival instincts, modern overthinking is deeply tied to a clinical psychology concept known as the intolerance of uncertainty. We are hardwired to seek out clear answers and predictability. We desperately want to know exactly what is going to happen next. But as we all know, life is inherently unpredictable. When the human mind can't find a clear answer, it attempts to control the uncontrollable by looping endlessly. Think of it like someone who repeatedly checks whether a locked door is closed. They aren't doing it because the door is actually open. They're doing it because they're trying to artificially manufacture a feeling of absolute certainty in a fundamentally uncertain world.
But the core problem here is that overthinking rarely, if ever, creates the clarity we're looking for. It usually just creates more questions, more worries, and a really immense cognitive load. Constantly stirring the mental water consumes massive amounts of metabolic energy, which is exactly why overthinking leaves you feeling so physically exhausted. This quote perfectly captures the trap. The harder you stir, the muddier it gets. Sometimes, to see clearly, the mind doesn't need to generate more thoughts. It actually requires profound stillness.
Now, if you struggle with this, it's absolutely crucial to recognize who is most vulnerable. People who are highly thoughtful, creative, intelligent, and sensitive are often the most prone to overthinking. Why? Because you possess the neurocognitive capacity to see far more possibilities, angles, and perspectives than the average person. Your brain is a high-performance engine running at maximum capacity. It is not a flaw, it's a side effect of a highly active, deeply capable mind trying to process a really complex world.
So, the question becomes, how do we learn to live alongside this uncertainty?
Look, we can't rewire millions of years of evolutionary biology overnight, but we can change our philosophical relationship with our own thoughts. A core principle in many therapeutic practices, like acceptance and commitment therapy, is cognitive diffusion, basically creating a healthy psychological distance from our thoughts. A hyperactive, overthinking mind does not mean you are weak, and it certainly does not mean you are broken. You're operating a profoundly complex piece of biological machinery. The goal isn't to stop thinking completely. That's biologically impossible. The goal is simply to observe the thoughts without being controlled by them.
Try to reframe the narrative in your head with self-compassion rather than self-criticism. Invite yourself to view your mind not as an enemy that you need to fight or suppress or somehow fix, but simply as an overprotective guardian. It's a part of you that is constantly scanning the horizon, trying to prepare for the worst, purely out of a misguided, instinctual desire to keep you safe from harm. When you feel that familiar spiral starting, especially in the middle of the night, you can offer your nervous system this gentle, actionable response. Acknowledge the brain's effort. You can quietly say to yourself, "Thank you for trying to protect me, but right now, in this moment, I am okay." This simple acknowledgement actually helps engage the parasympathetic nervous system, chemically signaling to your body that there's no immediate threat and that it is finally safe to rest. Perhaps the quest to eliminate all doubt is the very thing causing our anxiety. Maybe part of growing wiser is accepting the profound truth that we cannot predict the future, we cannot avoid every single mistake, and we simply cannot control everything. True peace might not be found in fighting the waves of thought, but in making friends with the unknown and learning how to live gracefully alongside uncertainty. Thank you for joining me on this explainer. I truly hope this journey has brought you a deeper understanding of your own mind and perhaps a lasting sense of quiet.